What's up, y'all? It's your boy Baki back with another one, baby. So this time I have been watching a bunch of horror stuff because of it's horror month. I've been doing horror games, and it's just been fun to kind of tap into that dark stuff that I most of the time don't tap into. So the first series that I started to watch was Nightmare on Elm Street. I started with the very first one, and I just finished the seventh one uh, this morning. So I plan on doing a little review about each one, and then maybe like a final overall perspective of kind of where the series went, and we'll go from there. So if you have never seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street, it's in 1984, which is about 4 years before I was born. So I don't know all the details and everything like that, but it was a little bit before my time. But I do remember watching it as a kid. I remember watching the first one and Dream Warrior specifically a lot as a kid. And rewatching the first movie, man, I have to tell you this. For those who don't know, let's just dive into the story first a little bit. Nightmare on Elm Street is basically about a child killer named Krueger, Fred Krueger, who has been killing children and basically got away with it on a technicality. Because he got away with it, the families, the adults of the town raided Fred at a boiler room and decided to set the whole place on fire. Then, because of that, Freddy died in a blaze of fucking glory, I guess. That was enough to bring him back to be resuscitated. So it's basically like he won on a technicality, but because he was cheated his life, he came back on a technicality. That's kind of how I look at it. Anywho, so Fred comes back, and his main mission is to haunt the kids whose dreams are still palpable, if you will. You know what I mean? They're still tangible. He comes back to haunt all the kids of Elm Street, of all the parents who did him wrong. You don't find this out till way later at the end of the story, but that's the basic premise of going into Nightmare on Elm Street across the whole entire series. Is most of the series, anyways. Freddy is trying to get even with those who did him wrong. So with the premise and everything out of the way, starting off, this movie is absolutely excellent from start to finish. It still holds up 100%. In fact, I would almost go as far as to say Nightmare on Elm Street movies hold up better than almost any other like horror series of that time. Don't quote me on that, but that's just personally how I feel, because a lot of the practical effects that were done were really, 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 really like groundbreaking, and it still shows even to this day. The first example of that is in right after the opening scene, and you getting to know the characters. Tina, who's been having these nightmares about Freddy, wants everybody to come over. She wants Nancy and the other two guys to come over and kick it and everything. So Tina and what's her name go upstairs to have sex, which is at another point I'll drop something interesting. There's no nudity in this movie. Not that I could find anyway. Which is just interesting to me. But anyways, so Tina and them are having sex, and Freddy comes in, and basically you have one of the most horrific kills, not only in the entire Elm Street series, just in general across all of horror. Tina is dragged up across the walls and everything. It's extremely, extremely graphic, and I will not probably be able to show that. If I do, it'll be very, very small snippets or like screenshots. But yeah, watch it yourself if you want to see how graphic it is. It is absolutely insane, but it's absolutely awesome. The effects that they pull off in this movie in general are just incredible around the board. From the way that Freddy looks, how he's kind of got this like wet vibe to him, to the way that they pull him in and out of dreams, to the small things that they do, like when Nancy's running up the stairs and it'll turn into like these little puddles and stuff like that. And what I also think is interesting is as the movie goes on, you get to these moments to realize like nobody who could you really say this is even on the same level as Freddy, right? Like think about it this way. If I tell you in real life that I'm having dreams about somebody who's haunting me in my dreams, and there was no Freddy Krueger, you wouldn't believe me. You'd think I was crazy. You'd think I was absolutely nuts. And I'm telling you, I can't go to sleep because I might die. And no matter what you try to do or say to anybody, nobody's really going to believe you. That puts you in a really like weird predicament because you basically have to solve it yourself. And that's the one thing that I love about this movie that makes it super strong is Nancy is a great protagonist herself. She plays a great role. Her name is Heather something. Let me look up her name real quick. I don't want to butcher it. Heather Langenkamp. She is a great protagonist, and her character growth is insane because she realizes the more she just tells people, the less it's doing. It's not changing anything. In fact, things are getting worse. Every time she tells people stuff, it's not getting any better. She's losing all of her friends. And because of that, she decides that she has to fight Freddy on her own terms and brings Freddy in. And when this movie turns into Freddy into the real world, it's literally Home Alone before Home Alone. She has all of these gadgets and or all these booby traps set up for Freddy in order to really mess Freddy up. So Freddy gets hit by hammers and trips over wires and gets set on fire. Like she goes ham on Freddy, man, and it's just a really good like play of it all, right? Because Freddy's is supposed to be this visceral dude, but at the same time he was a child killer. So he's really a fucking scumbag. So it's almost like Wes Craven was so ahead of it that he was like, well, I'm gonna jab him as well. I know I want Freddy to be more serious, but I'm a jab that a little bit. You know what I mean? And make it so it's a little bit comical in a way, because it does turn out to be a little bit comical. A lot of the stuff he does in that movie in general is a very scary scene, but when he gets pulled out into the real world, you go from complete like horror to like a kind of slapstick the way he gets knocked around. It gets pretty ridiculous. Let me see. I got some extra notes here. Let's see what else we got here. So Rod's death, which was the boyfriend, I believe, he probably had the weakest death of it all, of the entire movie. If I had to choose a death in general, the strongest death is probably going to go to Tina, followed closely by Glenn. Rod got choked with the fucking with the sheet around the neck, so that one's pretty lame. But Glenn got the awesome, most I would argue probably the second most iconic kill in Freddy's arsenal is Glenn's death through the bed, the blood waterfall, we'll call it. I'll show you the scene. That scene will be okay. The blood waterfall. In my opinion, that in itself was just incredible. Even to see it now to this day, I'm like, man, I got this nice camera here. I'm like, how I need to figure out some shots like that. That thing is wild. It's wild. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I also like how when Tina first dies, the movie sort of turns into this murder mystery. It not only is about Freddy and the whole crazy psychopath deal, it's about a potential real psychopath in real life who killed a girl. And we need to figure that out because we can't have a murderer running around our streets, even though you have a murderer running around in your brains. It's a crazy little dichotomy that they put into the movie to make it flow a little better. Because as I talk about these movies and you get to the second and third and fourth and fifth, a lot of the repetitiveness actually starts to show itself through because you kind of run out of that material. Which is why I'd probably say this and maybe like, I don't know, the seventh movie are my favorites. But we'll talk about each one individually. But definitely the best kill is going to Tina. Let's see what else we got here. That's another thing too, is it kind of asks you that question, like, what do you do as a community when the crime system and the justice system fails you? Do you take law into your own hands? And if you do, what if that actually did have certain consequences to it? You know? Oh yeah, Glenn is Johnny Depp too, by the way. I didn't know if I said that, so ladies want to see that. I guess closing thoughts on everything, I would say that the way that Nancy grows as a character, there's certain times you feel so bad for her. She looks so tired. Like I probably look right now because I've been streaming for 12 hours and I decided to just do this. But she looks so exhausted and so weak. and she looks out of it, yo. And the way that it just carries itself throughout the whole entire movie to take itself seriously, but realize that it's a movie at the end of it all, and you can have a little bit of leisure and laughing. Really, really makes this one of the greatest horror movies of all time, in my opinion. I haven't seen it in probably 20 years. I haven't seen this movie in about 20 years. But when I watched it, I loved every second of it. If I had to give it a rating, which I really don't like doing for movies personally, it would be a 9 out of 10. It'd almost be a 10 out of 10. I don't know what would even knock this movie. I have no problems with the movie. This movie's 100% great to me. It's got like little tiny plot holes you would ask yourself, but it's honestly in the 70s or 80s when it came. So you got to take a little bit of leniency to police force anyway. Yeah. So if you have not seen Nightmare on Elm Street, you need to do so ASAP. Do it for me. This is my first little review like this. We're going to try different views, different angles. I'm going to try to see what works, what doesn't work. So if you see a little bit of the chroma key or something like that, just I'm sorry. I love you. Know that I'm trying to get it work. I've got 6 more movies to review, and I also watched a couple other horror movies. I got notes and everything else written down so we can talk about it, have a little discussion. If you guys like Nightmare on Elm Street, what was your favorite kill, favorite moment? Let me know down in the comments below, man. Let's get this thing going. See you guys later. Peace.